Hey Josie, how are you?
Good. How are you?
I'm doing great. Thank you for joining us today.
Yes, I'm so happy to be back and joining and doing this again with you. I'm honored to be here.
So why don't we start by telling everybody a little bit about yourself for those new and tapping in with us today.
Yes, so my name is Jo. I go by Cannablis Jo and CannablissJo Consulting on Instagram and Twitter and Facebook. I am a cannabis consultant. I am the CEO and founder of CannablisJo Consulting. What I do is coaching and consulting for the state of Florida for medical marijuana clinics, and then I do one-on-one sessions with clients as well. So I do a lot of coaching and educating on how to mindfully consume and intentionally consume cannabis on an everyday basis.
Okay. Nice of you to join us. Today we're going to be talking about just diving into the differences between like CBD and hemp and THC, because I feel like there's so much to really know when it comes to that, because like you'll go to certain stores and you'll see certain items and it'll say CBD level X, THC level X, and you're like, okay, but what's the difference? What am I really looking for? So can you start by telling us what is CBD?
Yes, so CBD and THC both are something that a lot of people hear about, but don't really understand that there are a lot of cannabinoids to the cannabis plant. CBD and THC are just the more common that we are familiar with. So the difference between that is, of course, THC will give you the psychoactive effects, whereas CBD will not give you those psychoactive effects, but will still give you all the benefits from the cannabis plant.
When you say psychoactive, what are you referring to?
Psychoactive is the high.
Okay. Just so we know.
What some people may feel as a high, and then sometimes you may get more than others, and it all depends on the strains and the different levels of percentage of THC and things like that in the cannabis plant.
Okay, so for some people, it may be more beneficial to have a higher THC level in the products that they're consuming versus others. Is that what?
Yes, that is correct. Every individual is different, everybody's journey is different, and everybody suffers from different ailments. So it's trial and error really, but you always want to start with the lowest THC possible and more CBD, so that you're not feeling overwhelmed by the effects when you're beginning to use medical cannabis.
Okay, that makes perfect sense.
Yeah.
So what's the difference between CBD and hemp?
Okay, so there are two different things. CBD, of course, when you purchase it at a dispensary, it has a little bit more THC than hemp. Hemp has a little bit lower THC, not enough to be in your bloodstream. For example, if you're going to do a drug test for work or something like that, because if you take regular CBD and say if I go to the dispensary today and I purchase CBD from the dispensary, the levels of THC in that bottle is going to be a little bit higher than when I buy hemp derived from like a CBD store, which you don't need a medical marijuana license for. So there's two different kinds of dispensaries where you can purchase. There are CBD stores that just sell hemp derived products that don't have a high THC enough in there where it would come out like on a drug test or anything like that, or where you will feel a high or psychoactive effects. And then you can buy the CBD from the dispensary, the medical marijuana dispensary here in Florida, and that's going to be different. It's going to have a little bit of higher THC in it, but not enough to give you that high or have the psychoactive effects to it.
Okay. So how do I know which CBD or hemp and THC products are legit? Because you see them so often like online now, and it's like, you know, where should we go? Like, what do you recommend?
Well, I can recommend various things. There's a couple of CBD stores in the local area. I would always do my research and always ask for the certification of analysis so that you can look and see what you're getting and what they're putting in the product. You always want to ask a lot of questions when you're buying anything hemp derived. I do not recommend going to like a GNC or a gas station, I would go to a CBD dispensary.
Okay.
If you're looking to purchase hemp derived because you don't want the psychoactive effects, you don't want the high, you don't want to get the license, you want to use it and not have it affect your career or your work, you can buy hemp derived products, but still do your research. There's a lot of local stores in Orlando. There's a couple of CBD stores that they sell CBD products. From the dispensary, that's totally different. It's trial and error. Very few dispensaries sell straight CBD.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of them sell more 1-to-1 ratios where it's like half CBD,
I noticed that. Okay.
half THC. So you're getting both, a little bit of the best. I think to me, I call it the best of the both worlds. And you want to use products like this because CBD does help a lot with inflammation, anxiety, pain, cancer, diabetes. I mean, there's a list of ailments that CBD can really, really help and work for.
Okay. So when it comes to medical marijuana and CBD, does it show up on a drug test?
It does. If you're buying CBD, any cannabis products from the dispensary, they will show up on a drug test. Unfortunately, right now, the state of Florida, the laws does not protect employees. So it is up to each employer's discretion if they will allow for somebody to have their medical marijuana card and be a patient and it not affect their job and them not losing their job. But for example, if you work in a field where it's a possibility, like if you work for a hospital, that's a good example. If you were to get hurt, like, you know, I will use myself for an example. One time I got stuck with a needle when I was using a big needle. I stuck myself.
Oh, wow.
And of course, the first thing that they do is send you to the ER so that you can get tested. They do a panel, make sure you don't have anything going on,
Okay.
make sure nothing's wrong. Then, you know, that's a possibility that it can come out there, and then you would have to answer to that employer.
On like
and
the
that
drug
is
test,
up to
okay.
that is completely up to the employer. I know of certain employers that they allow for their employees to have their medical marijuana card and it doesn't affect them. But again, in the state of Florida, you're not like protected if you are a patient. And you do not have to disclose that to your employer unless if you feel that it's going to, like if they randomly test you or something like that, then that's something that you're definitely gonna have to find out. I would find out from corporate first. I wouldn't take the chance in getting a card and you getting randomly tested and then you losing your employment. So in the state of Florida, that's a big gray area, and it's up to each employer.
So that kind of goes into my second topic. So I feel like let's talk about that too, which is like cannabis in the workforce. Because legally speaking, I wanted to ask you, should you tell them? But you broke that down.
Yeah.
You broke that down pretty well. As far as in like applying for a job, can you be denied for a job by having a medical marijuana card?
You can.
Okay.
You can get denied a job. I'm not going to sit here and say that, no.
We're not here to sugarcoat it.
Yeah, I'm not going to sugarcoat it. You can. And that's, again, up to the employer. I've worked for companies where they were okay. They already had a couple of people at the corporate level educated on medical cannabis, and they had some employers, and they knew, and they were okay with it, and then some absolutely do not. And there are some applications that it will literally say on there when you go on Indeed, like, you cannot use medical marijuana, and that includes CBD. So some of them are,
they're very
a lot
specific.
of them are getting more well-versed.
Okay.
And they know, I guess they've had a few incidences probably with employers and stuff like that, and employees. So a lot of them are becoming more well-versed, and it'll literally say on there, like in the description, like, we do not allow medical marijuana consumption. It doesn't matter if you're a patient. So some of them are very upfront and clear about it. I would definitely find out and ask if it's something that you're really looking into.
Okay.
Because again, it's totally up to the employer.
Fair enough.
Yeah.
It's definitely, you know, it's important that we do have these conversations because, you know, you want to know what you're getting into ultimately.
Yes, definitely, and you always want to find out. You don't, especially if you have something very stable and you're doing well, you don't want to put yourself at risk if it's not needed.
Yeah. Understood. So, in going back to our talking about breaking down the marijuana, the hemp, and the consumption, my next question is, how are edibles different than smoking?
Oh, okay, yeah. So this is a good one. I like this question. So with smoking, obviously, like within the first 30 to 60 seconds, you're gonna feel those effects. If you're smoking with THC, of course. Some people smoke CBD flower, and again, like I mentioned before, there's no psychoactive effects, no euphoria, no high. But if you are smoking flower with THC, you won't feel the high immediately with smoking.
Okay.
With edibles,
You laughing? Okay. Tell us. Keep it straight.
with edibles, you have to be very careful. I would never, ever, ever recommend somebody for their first time using cannabis to use an edible.
Understood.
And a lot of people are against medical cannabis because of them having an experience
With an edible.
with an edible, somebody sharing a cookie with them or a brownie. I've heard so many stories about people for the first time they were out at a party, or they bought it because they were curious and they didn't know how to dose with edibles. And with edibles, you have to really tread lightly. I don't care how how much you use cannabis. Every person that creates an edible, it's completely different. You're never going to hit the same measurement, the amount of CBD or THC in that product. You always want to research where you are buying that edible from. You want to make sure that it is coming from a reputable company. You don't know what they're putting in that product. Like, please do research.
Mindful and responsible consumption.
Please, mindful and responsible consumption. And if you're intentional with it, you won't have any serious issues. But definitely, for the first time, never try an edible. Just don't. You can start throwing up. Like, it's not going to be a good experience, and it's not going to end well. Edibles, I just wanted to make sure I clarified that with edibles, because a lot of people don't understand, and they mix them with drinks, and I see people serving them at parties and doing infused drinks and stuff like that, and it's a really great area. You don't know how somebody's going to react to that, and you don't want to be held liable for medicating somebody at an event or at a party. So just be careful when you're consuming edibles. Edibles do take anywhere from 30 minutes to 2 hours to take effect, sometimes 3 hours. So it'll creep up on you, and when it does, it'll be a really intense feeling. It can cause paranoia. It can cause people to become more anxious. So you always want to try the lowest dose, and it can last in your system for up to 8 hours. So when this happens, of course, you want to make sure you have some CBD on hand if you're consuming edibles, black peppercorn. These are things that will counteract with the high and will bring down the high. But make sure you're with somebody if you're consuming edibles. Don't do them alone. Make sure you're in a safe environment. Don't consume while you're driving. Never, especially edibles. That's like a huge no, because you don't know how you're going to react. Make sure you're in a safe space. Make sure you have CBD on hand, like CBD oil, CBD gummies, just in case if you get too high. You can put like a full tincture under your tongue, wait like 30 minutes. It will take 30 to 45 minutes to start bringing the high down. But you just want to talk to yourself, and if you're feeling anxious or paranoia, this is temporary, it's going to go away. Drink a lot of water. Look at some nice happy pictures. Look at a comedy for a little bit until the high comes down. If you feel the need to seek medical attention, please do so. I'm not a medical doctor. I'm a cannabis consultant and coach. My job is to educate on how to consume responsibly, mindfully, and intentionally. So definitely, if you feel the need, if you're alone and you feel the need to seek medical attention, please do so. You don't want to be stuck alone and be in a situation where you're not feeling well mentally and physically.
That kind of leads into my next question, which was, can you overdose on cannabis?
So you cannot overdose on cannabis like you would with pharmaceutical drugs. It is different. And so that there's never been an incident, there hasn't been any research done till this day of somebody overdosing and dying.
I saw that.
Cannabis. Yeah,
not one record ever.
Not one. There's not one death linked to an overdose from cannabis. stimulants. However, you can overdose with cannabis and have different effects, like I mentioned already with the paranoia.
Okay.
You can have seizures, you can vomit,
things like that.
You won't feel well. Yeah, it'll be things like that. It might spike up your blood pressure. So things like that, but not how a pharmaceutical drug will affect, like not how you will overdose on a pharmaceutical drug. It's completely different.
Okay. You want to just give them like some particulars of like this is what you should do if you feel like you've ever consumed too much, maybe smoked too much. Yes.
Yeah, if you smoke too much, definitely, like I said, make sure you're drinking water. You want to get in the right headspace. You want to have somebody there with you when you're consuming, especially for the first time, so that you feel support. You want to play some music that'll kind of calm and relax you. Do some deep breathing, do some meditation, do some grounding, take off your shoes, walk around, start talking to yourself if you have to, and just remind yourself that that feeling, that overwhelming feeling is temporary, it's gonna pass. And take some CBD oil, CBD gummies. You can use peppercorn as well, black peppercorn, and that'll counteract with the high, and it'll take 30 to 45 minutes for that to take effect, to start bringing the high down. But those are some key things that you can do. And again, if you feel extremely overwhelmed and that you think those things are not helping, then definitely, seek medical attention.
100%. And going back to, the original concept behind this segment, Women in Cannabis, what do you feel like, off the top of your head, is like one of the ways that cannabis can positively affect women? Whether it's something, health-wise, mental-wise. What do you think is like a positive way it impacts a woman?
I think it impacts women a little bit differently. All women are different, of course, but I think it can be a positive experience depending on how you consume. Understood. And your mindset. So when you're coming into using cannabis, you always want to ask yourself why. You want to make sure you're not creating a codependency on it so that it is a positive experience for you. But I think generally speaking, and spiritually speaking, mentally and health-wise, it can help with different ailments. Some of the common ones for us women, because we carry so much on our shoulders all the time, and because we carry stress differently, that it can lower stress levels, it can lower anxiety, it can help with sleeping. So if you're getting better sleep, you can work more effectively the next day, you'll be in a better mood. Mentally, spiritually, physically, sleep is extremely important. So that's one of the things that it does help with as well. You can juice cannabis and use it on a daily regimen if you work out. I myself am a cannabis patient in the state of Florida, and I use it in my juice. I do smoothies with the leaves.
Oh yeah.
I create teas. You can do so many different things with cannabis. I'll use oils and tinctures and creams if I'm going to meditate and do some yoga to help me balance my day. It helps me personally with my fibroids, with my menstrual flow. It helps me with my PTSD, with my anxiety. It helps with my seizures as well. I am a mother of 4, so I need to make sure I'm on point for my kids, mentally, spiritually, and physically. And for me, cannabis helps a lot with that, and it does help a lot of other women as well, especially if you have like ADD or ADHD. It'll help you to focus more, or if you have a hard time getting up in the morning, it can help with all of those things in a positive way.
Just curious. Just curious. I want to pick your brain. There was an article that I read recently. It was published by Harvard Health. And they were basically talking about how women are turning to cannabis for menopause symptom relief. And I thought that was very interesting because, when you think about menopause, you think hot flashes, trouble sleeping, mood changes, and things like that. So to see that they're actually, linking the two, yeah. I think that's breaking news, right?
Yeah, that is. That's breaking news. That's huge. That's huge. That opens more doors. A lot of women will feel more comfortable knowing that they're doing these kind of research studies for things that they're experiencing.
Yeah.
You know?
And it's a way to get us away from taking all those different pills,
Yes,
and
definitely.
which can really be harmful.
It can be harmful, and that's the thing with cannabis. Like, there's so much stigma behind it, but I feel like the more that we educate and the more we become more aware of how you can use it medicinally, you really can. Cannabis is like an herb, you know? It's like an herb. You can use it like a tea. You can consume it, like I was saying, in juicing, smoothies. You can use topical creams, suppositories. Suppositories for women, CBD suppositories are amazing for PMS,
Really?
for menopause, for fibroids, for heavy flow, for cramping, for menstrual cramping.
I've been hearing about that more.
Yeah.
And I think that was a big topic of discussion at our last conference.
Yeah. It is. It's very helpful, and you don't feel any high, no psychoactive effects from it, and you receive all of the benefits. So when you're using suppositories, it affects your body. It's like a body high.
Okay.
So it'll help numb the pain that you're feeling. It's not going to affect your
Your
mental.
mental. Okay, I think that's why a lot of women were interested,
Yeah,
especially
so you don't
our
feel
older
as
generation.
Yeah. I know it's a little bit, people don't feel really comfortable talking about like suppositories, but they're really, really good and really effective.
Hey, we're here to talk about all the uncomfortable stuff.
Yes. We're here to talk about all the things that us as women we deal with, but don't really openly discuss and talk about.
100%.
And those problems and issues definitely should be talked about more, because we all suffer from it, and if we don't personally, we know somebody close to us that does.
Absolutely. Jo, you have been amazing. You always come and you just spill so much knowledge on us,
Thank you.
and then it's like positive energy overflowing. So it's always a good time.
Yes, thank you. It's always amazing.
Before we close out, is there anything that you wanna, leave us with, gem-wise, and then you wanna let us know anything you have coming up, all that good stuff.
Yes, I would love to share what I have coming. First of all, women supporting women and women empowerment is so important, and supporting businesses like yourself. You're giving me the opportunity, and many, many other women the opportunity to talk about not only their business, but as a mom, as a woman, things that we need more knowledge and education about and need to be more aware about. So I am grateful to you as well, because you're my business mentor and coach. I always call you for all of my business stuff. And we've been working together for a while. One thing that I do want to mention is definitely continue to support other women and local businesses. We need to continue to grow as a community, and we need to continue to pour into each other and help each other. It takes a village. It takes a village to make a movement. And
so what do you have coming up?
I do have an event coming up August 5th. It is called Cannabis Picnic. It is based on the third eye chakras. We're going to be doing it at Appleview 360. It's going to start at 3:30 p.m. It is in Longwood, Florida. The whole event is about women empowerment, meditating, sound healing. There will be women vendors. There'll be a woman chef, private chef. We're going to have photography, content creation at this location.
What's the vibe?
Yeah, African drums at the end. So it's going to be amazing. It's all healing. We do Cannabis 101, Psychedelics 101. We're going to have a panel of women speakers as well. And we're going to be talking about using plants medicine mindfully, women empowerment, starting your own business, gardening, just a little bit of everything, all things that are healthy and things that we can use as coping skills on a daily basis to help us get through the day and everyday life.
Okay, so I'll make sure I get everybody that information.
Yes, go on CannablissJo, CannablissJo Consulting on Instagram, on Facebook, on Twitter. You can DM me if you have any questions. The link is in my bio.
All right, Jo. Well, thank you for joining us this week.
Thank you so much for having me again. Peace and blessings.
Until next time.
Ashe.
Look, I said I've been on my creep.